St. Matthew Lutheran Church in Dubuque, Iowa, was established in 1907, thus marking its Centennial Anniversary in 2007. 100 years of worship, 100 years of teaching and preaching, of education and fellowship, marriage services, baptisms, and affirmation of baptism. Though the faces have changed in the pews and in the pulpit, there has been one constant throughout the century. St. Matthew Lutheran Church has been a place where people have come to worship their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. The story behind the church is one that has never been told before in this way. Now, for the first time, we will step back and look at the very beginnings of St. Matthew, the changes the church has faced through the 10 decades, and the hope for its future in downtown Dubuque. Together we will examine the story of St. Matthew Church as we look back, look forward, look up. The story of St. Matthew Lutheran Church begins with the story of Reverend Henry Lutz. Born in Germany in 1840, Reverend Lutz became pastor of St. John's Lutheran Church in Dubuque when he was 32 years old. He was a man of strong persuasive powers, but could also be a tyrant, according to family legend. Reverend Lutz's missionary zeal and keen sense of business led many local projects. He was instrumental in relocating Wartburg Seminary to Dubuque. He oversaw the construction of St. Peter Church on Lincoln Avenue and Holy Trinity Church on Grandview Avenue, as well as the building of a new St. John's Church along with a school and parsonage. His horse Mabel and his buggy were a familiar sight along the streets of the city.
I remember Pastor Lutz, he used to come to the grocery store, my folks, and get groceries. Of course, nobody had cars, didn't know what cars were like. I remember he was a very, very nice man. His wife was pretty heavy set, but I can't place her too good now in my mind. We as kids would run in and tell our mom and dad, we'd tell them that, here comes Pastor Lutz with the buggy and Mabel.
Under the seat of the buggy, he often carried a supply of alpine herbs, which was a popular remedy for various ailments. He served St. John's continuously as pastor for nearly 35 years until disharmony arose. It began in 1902 when some members of the congregation began to criticize Reverend Lutz for spending too much time on private interests that included real estate and the building of a fair patent medical practice that sold various medical remedies. According to an April 5, 1907 article in the Telegraph Herald, members of the congregation were treated by the minister, and his big sales prompted the Dubuque Medical Society to adopt a resolution censuring his activity. The congregation charged that due to these interests, Reverend Lutz was neglecting to give all attention to the spiritual guidance and instruction of his flock, and that his sermons had fallen off considerably in merit and were not up to the standard that he had set years before. At various times, Reverend Lutz had been asked to resign, but in each instance he had positively refused to do so. Some members of St. John's were also desiring an English-speaking pastor. Pastor Conrad Prottengeyer was called to Dubuque as a second pastor and was to have charge of the English services and religious instruction. He arrived in Dubuque in May 1906, but his presence was not enough to ease the discontent of some members. After 34 years of service, the congregation of St. John's voted at their spring 1907 meeting to remove Reverend Lutz as the pastor of the congregation. It was the beginning of a nasty struggle.